There have been moments in my life, many, actually, when I felt like I wasn't enough. Not glamorous enough, not fair enough, not thin enough, not soft-spoken enough. When I started out, there were people who told me to fix my nose, lighten my skin, change my body. They said I was too strong, too opinionated, too bold, and for a while I believed them. I believed that maybe I had to shrink myself to fit into the mold they created for women like me, or rather, for women they could be comfortable with. I looked into the mirror and asked questions I never should have had to. Asterisk, am I too much, or maybe not enough? Asterisk, but here's what I learned in those seasons: God doesn't see me through the eyes of an industry or a camera lens. He doesn't measure my worth based on symmetry, social media followers, or the applause of a room. His love for me isn't based on my performance or my perfection. It is steady, it is unconditional, it is unchanging. Even when I doubted myself, even when I was tempted to change who I was just to belong, his love whispered a deeper truth into my soul: asterisk, you are already enough. Not because you're flawless, but because you're mine. Asterisk, that truth has carried me through rejection, criticism, and all the invisible bruises that come with public life. You see, people will always have opinions. They will praise you one day and tear you down the next, but God's view of you never wavers. He doesn't ask you to be perfect, he asks you to be real, to be brave, to keep walking when it hurts. When I was told I couldn't lead a Hollywood series because of my accent, I remembered who created my voice. When I was told I couldn't headline a film because of where I came from, I remembered who authored my journey. His love for me isn't tied to borders, industries, or approval. It's bigger than that, and when you know that, really know that, you stop asking the world for permission to be yourself. You stop waiting to be invited to the table, and you start building your own. There's so much pressure today to constantly be more, to look a certain way, speak a certain way, live a certain way, but here's the thing: being enough doesn't mean being everything. It means standing in your truth and knowing that God's love fills every gap that the world says you have. It means showing up as you are flawed, learning, evolving, and trusting that you were made intentionally for a purpose. Yes, I've worked hard. Yes, I've pushed boundaries and broken barriers. But beneath all of that is a truth far more powerful. I am deeply loved, even in my most insecure, uncertain moments. That love doesn't disappear when I make mistakes. It doesn't fade when others turn away. It's there in the silence after rejection, in the quiet strength it takes to start again, in the courage it takes to be different. So when I pray, asterisk, God, let me see the depth of your unchanging love even when I'm not enough for the world. Asterisk, I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for perspective. I'm asking to remember that my value isn't found in being someone else's idea of enough. It's in being who I was created to be: bold, brown, brave, and deeply, irrevocably loved. There's a certain kind of loneliness that people don't talk about enough, the kind you feel even when you're surrounded by hundreds, maybe thousands of people. It's not the absence of company, it's the absence of connection. I've stood in rooms filled with lights, cameras, applause, with stylists adjusting my dress, publicists managing my schedule, people calling my name, and yet, somewhere deep inside, I felt alone. It's strange, isn't it, to be in the middle of attention and still feel like no one really sees you. They see the image, the persona, the red carpet version of you, but not always the person underneath. Not the one who carries doubts, who fights fears, who sometimes just wants to sit in silence and breathe. That loneliness isn't about being physically alone. It's about feeling emotionally invisible. And in those moments, I've whispered to God, asterisk, let me feel your love, even now, even when I feel alone in a room full of people. Asterisk, because only He sees the heart, only He hears the thoughts behind the smile, the silence behind the small talk. When you live in the public eye, you learn to build walls, you learn to smile even when you're aching, to nod politely even when your mind is somewhere else entirely, and over time you start to wonder, does anyone really see me? Not the star, not the role, not the carefully curated image, but asterisk me, asterisk. And that's where faith becomes more than just something you believe, it becomes someone you rely on. In those quiet, private moments of isolation, I have felt God's presence stronger than ever, because His love doesn't require me to perform. I don't have to win awards or be on a magazine cover to be worthy in His eyes. I don't have to hide my tiredness, my sadness, or my flaws. With Him I can just be, and that is such a rare and powerful thing, to be fully known and still fully loved. I've learned that God's love is not just for the desperate cries in the dark or the big life crises. It's also for the subtle ache of feeling disconnected, even when everything looks perfect on the outside. His love finds you in hotel rooms after long days, in quiet corners of busy sets, in car rides where the noise finally fades, and you remember that you are still human, still longing for something real. The truth is, we all want to be seen. We all want someone to look at us and say, "I get it. I see you. You matter." And when that doesn't come from the people around you, it's easy to feel small. But in those moments, I've leaned into the one who always sees, always understands, always stays. God's love is not loud or flashy. It's steady. It's patient. It doesn't walk away when you're not your best. It leans in closer. So when I say, God, let me see the depth of your unchanging love even when I feel alone in a room full of people. I'm asking to remember who I am beyond the surface, a soul designed by the divine, seen and cherished even in silence. Because no matter how bright the spotlight, it can never replace the warmth of being truly known. And that kind of love, that unshakable, unchanging love, is what holds me together when the rest of the world feels just out of reach. Failure has a way of humbling you like nothing else can. It doesn't knock gently. It slams the door, pulls the rug, and leaves you staring at the ceiling, wondering how you ended up flat on your face. And believe me, I've been there. More than once, there have been projects I poured my heart into that didn't succeed, auditions I prepared for that never called back, choices I made that didn't turn out how I hoped. There have been moments when the critics were loud, but the self-doubt in my own head was even louder. And in those moments the temptation was always the same, to give up, to hide, to disappear, because falling hurts, not just your pride but your spirit, especially when you gave it everything you had. But here's the truth that's shaped me. God's love doesn't flinch when I fall. It doesn't shrink back in disappointment or walk away in silence. It meets me there, on the floor, in the mess, in the tears I'd rather not admit I cried. He doesn't say, "You failed, so you're done." He says, "You fell, so let me help you up." We live in a world that loves success stories. We're constantly told to rise, hustle, win, impress. But what about the chapters in between? The quiet ones where the deal fell through, where the dream didn't work out, where you were brave and still didn't get the role. No one posts about those days. But those are the days I've felt God's love the most. Because His love isn't conditional. It's not reserved for when we're strong or perfect or applauded. It's for the days when we fail publicly and break privately. It's for the days when we question our worth, our talent, even our purpose. In those moments, God doesn't leave me in shame. He sits with me in it, then gently nudges me forward. He reminds me that failure isn't the end. It's part of the becoming. Some of the most defining seasons of my life came after moments when I fell flat. When the world said no, I had to decide whether to believe them or to believe that God's yes for me still stood. And let me tell you, there's something powerful about getting back up when no one expects you to. Not because you're fearless, but because you know that love, the kind that comes from above, is stronger than fear. People often assume that strength means never falling. I don't believe that. I think strength is the courage to rise again, to start over, to keep showing up even when your confidence is shaken. And I know that every time I've been able to do that, it wasn't just me. It was grace. It was love catching me before I hit the ground too hard. It was God reminding me, "I still see you. I still believe in you." So when I say, God, let me see the depth of your unchanging love even when I fall flat on my face. I'm asking not for an easy life, but for a faithful heart. One that knows my value doesn't disappear when I stumble. One that trusts that every fall can teach, every failure can refine, and every setback can be a setup for something greater. if I stay close to the one who never changes, no matter how many times I do. Falling doesn't mean you're broken beyond repair. It means you're human, and being human, covered by divine love, is more than enough to start again. There are moments in life when no answer seems to make sense, when the question why echoes louder than anything else. I've been in those moments when something so painful, so unexpected, or so confusing happened that no logic, no comfort, no explanation could make it feel okay. And in those moments I found myself turning to God, not with polished prayers or perfect faith, but with broken questions. Why now? Why me? Why this? When I lost my father, the grief didn't come in neat stages. It came in waves, sometimes crashing, sometimes quietly eroding parts of me I didn't even realize were fragile. He was my anchor, my hero, my first cheerleader, and suddenly he was gone. I remember staring at the ceiling in the middle of the night, hoping for a dream where he'd walk in, just to tell me everything would be okay. But dreams aren't always kind, and neither are the questions that follow. There was no explanation that made sense to me. People said things like, "It was his time," or "God has a plan," and though well-meaning, those words didn't soften the ache, because when you're in that kind of pain, you don't want a plan, you want your person back. You want the story to go differently, and when it doesn't, when you're left holding the pieces, it's easy to wonder if God is even listening. But here's what I've slowly come to understand. God's love doesn't depend on my understanding. His presence isn't limited to moments I can explain. In fact, some of the deepest encounters I've had with his love came when I had absolutely no idea what he was doing. I've learned that faith doesn't mean having all the answers, it means trusting the one who does, even when he's silent. There's a kind of surrender that happens when you finally accept that you may never get the why you're searching for. And that's not weakness, that's growth. That's when faith becomes real. Not when you're getting everything you want, but when you're holding on even in the dark. Even in the pain, even in the unknown. I think about the times I prayed for something that didn't happen, opportunities I believed were meant for me, doors that closed, people who walked away. At the time, it felt like loss. But looking back, I see how some of those unanswered prayers protected me, redirected me, and prepared me for something I never could have seen coming. Sometimes the why doesn't come in words, it comes in hindsight, and even then, not always clearly. But even when I don't understand, I've come to believe that God's love remains unchanging, that it sits with me in the confusion, that it holds me when everything else feels uncertain, that it doesn't demand perfect faith from me, but invites me to lean in, question, cry, and still trust even when trust feels fragile. So when I pray, God, let me see the depth of your unchanging love even when I can't understand the why, I'm not asking for explanations. I'm asking for peace. I'm asking for comfort in the waiting, strength in the silence, and hope that transcends reason. I'm asking for the kind of love that meets me exactly where I am, not where I pretend to be. Because real love doesn't need to be understood to be felt. And God's love, steady, present, infinite, has a way of filling the gaps that answers never could. There's something surreal about standing on a stage, hearing your name called, feeling the weight of the spotlight on your shoulders and the roar of applause all around you. It's intoxicating, affirming, powerful. People look at those moments and see success. They see the polished version, the dream fulfilled, the moment of triumph. But what they often don't see is what it takes to get there, or the quiet reality that even in those bright, shining moments, the need for grounding doesn't disappear. If anything, it grows stronger. When I stand on a stage dressed in designer clothes, delivering speeches or accepting awards, part of me is always aware that this spotlight can be blinding. It can trick you into thinking that applause equals value, that recognition equals love, that success is the same as worth. And that's where I have to stop, breathe, and pray, God, let me see the depth of your unchanging love, even when I shine on the stage. Because as beautiful and humbling as those moments are, They are still fleeting. The curtain closes, the makeup comes off, the crowd goes home, and then it's just me again, the real me, without the lights and the praise. It's in that stillness that I remind myself, I am not the image they see, I am the soul you created. And your love for me isn't brighter when the spotlight is its constant, quiet, deeper than any standing ovation. Success can be a strange test. It doesn't just challenge your ability to reach your goals, it tests your heart, your humility, your dependence on something bigger than yourself. There have been moments when I've achieved things I once only dreamed of: international recognition, global roles, red carpets. And while I'm grateful, deeply grateful, I also know how easy it is to get lost in it all. To start thinking, I did this on my own, to start chasing the next high, the next award, the next validation, but I didn't get here alone. My journey has been marked by divine fingerprints, by open doors I didn't knock on, by second chances I didn't deserve, by strength I didn't summon myself. Every victory, every step forward has had God's grace woven into it, and that's why I never want to forget to thank Him, especially when things are going well. It's easy to turn to God when you're broken, but I want to turn to Him when I'm blessed too, when the world is clapping, when everything seems perfect, when the dreams are no longer just dreams, because I know that His love isn't just for the valleys. It's for the mountaintops too. It's the steady foundation beneath the glamour, the whisper that reminds me, stay rooted, stay thankful, stay close to me. His love anchors me so that I don't float away on the highs or crash during the lows. It keeps me whole when everything around me tells me I need to become something else to stay relevant or admired. So when I shine on the stage, I don't want to forget the source of that light. I want to shine not just for myself, but as a reflection of the one who's been with me through it all, in auditions and rejections, in quiet prayers and loud triumphs. And I want to carry His love with me, not as a performance, but as a posture of gratitude, of grace, of grounding. Because real success isn't just being seen by the world. It's being known and loved by God, even when the stage is empty, even when the lights go down. That's the kind of love that lasts. That's the kind of love I never want to lose sight of, especially when I'm standing in the spotlight. The world we live in is always shifting, sometimes slowly, sometimes in ways so fast it feels like the ground beneath our feet is moving. Cultures change, trends evolve, industries rise and fall. People come and go, cities grow and shrink, and what was familiar yesterday might feel completely foreign tomorrow. I've lived through many of these changes personally and professionally, from growing up in India, stepping into Bollywood, and then crossing over to Hollywood. Each step brought new challenges, new environments, new expectations, and through it all, one thing I've learned is that the world's constant change can be both exhilarating and unsettling. When everything around you keeps moving, it's easy to feel unsteady, to wonder where you fit, to question who you are when the definitions keep shifting. In those moments, I find myself praying, God, let me see the depth of your unchanging love even when the world keeps changing. Because here's the truth, everything external is temporary. Fame fades, beauty changes, opportunities come and go, but God's love, that is constant. It doesn't fluctuate with the seasons, with my success or failure, or with the approval of others. It doesn't vanish when I make mistakes or when people disappoint me. It remains steady, unwavering, a rock in the middle of every storm. When I think about my journey, I remember how much I've had to adapt to new cultures, new languages, new ways of doing things. There were times I felt like an outsider, unsure if I could truly belong. But God's love gave me a foundation deeper than any language or culture could provide. It reminded me that belonging isn't about fitting in, it's about being accepted exactly as I am. Change can bring fear too. Fear of losing what you've built, fear of the unknown, fear of becoming someone you don't recognize. But when I anchor myself in God's unchanging love, those fears start to lose their grip, because that love isn't just a feeling, it's a promise. A promise that no matter how much the world twists and turns, I am held, I am known, I am treasured. I also think about how change tests our values. In a world obsessed with youth, appearance, and constant achievement, it's easy to feel pressured to keep up, to look younger, to work harder, to never slow down. But God's love calls me back to something deeper than surface level success. It invites me to rest in the truth that I am loved not for what I do or how I look, but for who I am, a beloved child of God. Sometimes, when the world around me seems chaotic, I look up at the sky and remember that the one who holds the universe also holds my heart. His love doesn't change when the world does. It's the anchor that keeps me steady, the light that guides me through uncertainty, the hand that holds me when I'm afraid. So when I say, God, let me see the depth of your unchanging love even when the world keeps changing. I'm asking for the courage to embrace change without losing myself. I'm asking for the faith to know that no matter what happens around me, there is a love that never shifts or fades. A love that meets me at every crossroad in every season, through every transformation. And that kind of love, unchanging, faithful, infinite, gives me peace. It gives me strength. It reminds me that while the world may keep changing, I am held by something eternal. Something beautiful, something unbreakable,